Hello, and welcome to the conversation. I'm your host, Rytis, saying hello to you from the capital of Lithuania, from Vilnius, and halfway across the world, in the city of angels, Los Angeles, California, is the doctor of psychology, a professional psychic medium and healer, Lady Reverend Dr. Layla, and she is the Psychicology doctor. Last time, we were chatting at the beginning of the year about the new year, about the new beginning, about this collective energy that was very hopeful, very much, beginning fresh, starting fresh, beginning kind of on a blank slate. Now we're talking at the end of the first month of the year, and there seems to have been a sort of shift in this energy. It feels a little bit heavier right now, a little bit more maybe pensive. Maybe there's some, thoughts that keep popping back up, some things that kind of create blockages maybe in all of those like goals and visions of what we set ourselves for at the
Right.
very beginning. And I know that there seems to be some sort of planetary alignment change. So it's
Yes.
not just probably happening, there is a reason for it. So what's going on? Can you tell
Okay.
us a little bit about it?
Yeah, yes, I can. And the reason I'm laughing is the way you were explaining things sounded like almost like a very, very general psychic reading that I've seen before. So I just thought that was hilarious. But back to the main point. Yeah, so what is going on? It's okay. Go ahead and laugh for a moment. That's that would be great for a role. So there's something in the air. Yes, but tell me what it is, because that's what I'm paying you for. Not you, but if it was a reading. So what's happening right now might seem like a blockage, but it's actually an opportunity. So what's happening is there's some core, as you mentioned, ruminating thoughts, meaning some really old wounds or blockages from the past that is suddenly deciding to pop up and making us, as a general, overthink. And those of us that are more sensitive, it will bring us more prone to our depression might pop back up, the anxiety might pop back up. Again, certain thoughts or traumas might start popping up again. The reason this is happening is so that we can look at it and hopefully get it out of our system. So if you think of like a fountain, the water's coming up so that it can come pour out, or a stream so that it can flow through the river and eventually lead to the ocean and let just Mother Earth recycle it. That's the purpose. So as we talked in the previous show or podcast, whichever one you're listening to, um, this is still the year to have your dreams, wishes, everything come true. At the same time, take into account that if there's pebbles, boulders, rocks that are on the pathway, it's not that it's blocked, it's that we just need to remove it so we can keep going towards our path, so we can see the other end. I feel the reason I'm sharing this is because in the past couple weeks, and including myself, and I'll share about that in a moment, um, there's been a lot of people coming in, lots of clients and patients having these thoughts and emotions from the past. Regrets. That's what I was thinking about. Why did this happen? Why didn't I do this sooner? Why, that feeling of, oh my God, why? I'm sure a lot of us can relate to that, right? And you're smirking. So I'm sure you can even for myself, right? With
Mhm.
all the work that I do, that moment popped up and I thought it was really fascinating because I was like, why is this coming up? And so it's coming up so that you can look at it and let it go. So if you're wondering, like, oh, why would God put this, if we're talking about God, or if we're talking about the planet, or if we're talking about our minds, so however you want to phrase it, the main point is there is that heaviness. There's that feeling of something is static. How do I get it to flow? And really what's I'm debating which path I want to take on this conversation, but really the main thing here is to two things. Recognize that if you're having a regret, take a look at what the regret was. And like if you imagine it kind of like painting a picture, and it's like, what was that regret? What do you want your future to look like, so that you don't have the same regret, so that you're not making the same mistake? So if you can look at something and say, that didn't turn out so great, versus resisting it. Oh my God, I can't believe I did that. I'm so embarrassed. I'm ashamed. Um, why? So if you can separate from those emotions, even just for a moment, and say, okay, this happened. Um, Maybe you didn't do music for 10 years and suddenly you're doing music. Maybe there's a path that you didn't take, or maybe you wish you listened to your parents or didn't listen to your parents. Whatever the case, look at what the situation is that's weighing down on you. If you can take a moment, this is where you can start having control to remove the boulders, by the way. So going into that flow of, well, where do I have control if I'm sitting here feeling this way? It's take a moment, let your body relax, let yourself just kind of, wherever you're sitting, let wherever you're sitting support your body, and take a few deep breaths to let yourself be present. So we can control our emotions to a degree. This is very basic somatic work. Few deep breaths in, few deep breaths out. And suddenly we become more centered. It becomes easier to look at that thing that we're ashamed of, embarrassed, regret, our wants, our desires. So not just looking at our past, but why can't I have the future that I want? So it all starts with making ourselves more present. And then a next tool, another idea is, can you look at just kind of like an image of what that looks like? Is there a first memory? Is there a worse memory that is kind of coming up from the past that's blocking your future? And if you can take a moment to look at that and just allow yourself to imagine just letting it go. Like letting it, you can imagine it just going out of your space. You can imagine it washing away. You might even notice as you're looking at it, it gets further and further away from you, while you're being present in your breathing, while you're being present sitting in your chair. So even as I'm explaining this, are you noticing kind of the difference between how I was speaking before and then how I'm explaining what to do now?
Hmm. Yeah. It's a little bit more calm,
Hmm.
I would say.
Right.
Yeah. It makes me, it just, I was thinking as you were saying this, um, that once again, we, uh, we come to this thing of something changed, something
Hmm.
shifted.
Hmm.
Um, and if you're aware of the shift, you
Hmm.
want to know what the hell is going on.
Right.
And I think, at least for me, in my own work with myself, the theme has been not trying to find an answer where there's no answer to be found, and
Hmm.
just trusting the fact that you are in this kind of a searching area, and then answers will come. But in this case of this energy, as you're talking about, of this release, I see again, like, just like in the beginning of the year, there was an opportunity to start fresh.
Right.
This sense of maybe worrying, or something that you have been going on, you have been going through,
Hmm.
or people may have been feeling, is again another chance to
Hmm.
work through something and get yourself set up for that next, or that better step, which is, like you said,
Right.
getting not getting rid of, but realizing that this is something that can be beneficial. Because I think most of us, our initial reaction to worrying thoughts and like this darker, kind of heavier energy coming in, is like, oh, I don't want it, I want it to end, I want it to just be
We want to
gone.
resist it.
Yeah, you want to kind of like push it away almost. Whereas I think this is an opportunity to not to give into it, but to be mindful about what it is,
Hmm.
and to look at the core of it, of
Hmm.
why is this coming up, and what is it telling me, or what is it reminding me
Hmm.
of that's not of something that's not, maybe not necessarily even serving you anymore, but something that you simply need to understand
Hmm.
and let go, and then
Right.
move into that year of fulfillment, like you said, right?
Right. Right. Yeah.
All right. So aside from, just kind of being aware of it, giving yourself time and space to breathe, and kind of, dealing with the images that come up, is there anything else that we can do to make this sort of a darker, heavier energy um, work for our benefit?
Can we make the dark energy work for our benefit? Yes. So as a Scorpio moon, you have no idea what that is, but for the viewers, my moon is in Scorpio. So it's a lot of death and rebirth, which I personally feel like I experienced this past weekend with this energy. I'm like, oh my God, this is incredibly heavy. Um, if we I believe in taking advantage of even the darkest opportunity. Um, and actually one of my favorite authors, and this is just if people want to do some reading. So Viktor Frankl was well known for his modality during the Holocaust, and when he came out of the Holocaust, he actually wrote this book about where do we have control. And I believe, and one of my modalities is where can we have empowerment, even if 99.9% of the energy, when I mean energy, it's literally everything, the world, society, your siblings, your family, your partner, your cat, your whatever it is, your emotions, the I don't know, the foam pole, EMF waves, whatever it is that's weighing you down, right? Because it's different to each person. And I know we can laugh at it and be like, oh, she's talking about the phone pole. But whatever it is, um, even if 99.9% looks like it's pitch black, I would say focus on that point 0.1 or that 0.01% that is light, and keep focusing on that. That means the advantage that we have is we're taking control, that even during that resistance, and I don't want to look at it and that discomfort, and hopefully I'm displaying this level of like, static and discomfort. If we actually give ourselves that space, even if we don't think we deserve it, even if we don't think we're good enough, it doesn't matter, because there's that 0.1%. I feel like people are like, but I do think I'm good enough, and that's wonderful. But for the people that are suffering in that severe depression, severe anxiety, and it feels like they're drowning. So I'm talking about the most severe case. So whoever's doing better, great, this will be even easier. But being able to have just that one moment to take control and just breathe within the anxiety, within the depression, within the stress, within the feeling frantic. Notice what it feels like sitting, or if you need to stand, notice what the floor feels like on your feet. Notice what the chair feels like. Does it feel like it's supporting you? Because it is. If it's not, maybe sit on a different chair. I'm just saying. But um, I sit on cushions, so I feel my chair supporting me, and now my body can relax. In this moment, um, allow yourself. If you don't have to feel the feeling, you don't have to go into the trauma. I don't recommend that. That is not the kind of work that I do. It's what is the easiest way to solve the problem, right? I know this is kind of long-winded, but again, all of this is allow yourself to breathe, allow yourself to be centered. This is not even a spiritual thing. This is a very body awareness, somatic, you know, um, concept that your body needs to feel safe and supported as if it's like in a womb, right? And just imagine, if you want to imagine in front of you, if you close your eyes, that even if everything is pitch black, find that one speck of light. And that one speck of light is going to be that part of you that is excited, because there is a piece of us, mind, body, spirit, that is excited for what we can create for ourselves. So even if the whole world is like, you are the worst thing on this planet, or, I'm actually thinking about back when I was interning and working with spiritual teachers and had a dissertation chair. And I know you know the story, but it's like, it felt like the whole world was telling me that um, my thought was too out there and not good enough and not good enough. And it had to be this way and this way. And it was just too much perfection. So I had to look at this. What do I love about myself? What am I excited about? And kind of just imagine expanding that imagery or that light. It's almost like when the lens just suddenly opens up and you can see a clear picture. And my picture was in the psychic world. So going into a little personal story, in the psychic world, when I felt there was no room for being a psychic and a healer and all the spiritual esoteric world, and then becoming a clinical doctor and working with dual diagnosis with schizophrenic, severe depression, addiction. And it was such a clash, right? And then all these other things that I enjoyed doing, it was like everybody was telling me that you could only be one or the other. So imagine, it's like, oh, well, you can only be a musician or an actor, or you can only be an engineer or an artist. It's like saying you can only be one, and that's very limited. And so for me, it was seeing that picture of the excitement going into that light. So seeing a bigger picture that excited me, that actually warmed my heart up. So for those who are feeling like right now things are very heavy, go back to your January 1st, 2023 goal. What was that? And imagine looking at it. What does it look like? What does it feel like? How does it feel in your body? Is it an exciting kind of like, oh my God, how am I going to do this? Or is it exhausting? If it's exhausting, break it down. What's the next step? What's the very next thing you have to do? So again, for those people who want to be in bed for 3 days, the next step is, can I wake up and just imagine what I'm going to do? Can I wake up and get my body to do something? That's a step. That is a step. People are like, oh, that's not big enough. No, that is a step. 3 days ago, you couldn't get out of bed. Today, you're taking one step forward. You're putting your foot outside the door. That is a win. People need to acknowledge that. I'm getting very passionate right now. People need to acknowledge that is a win. If you have anxiety, was there a moment during the day, if I'm telling you to just look into that light and expand that image, did you feel relaxed and warm-hearted for a moment? That is a win. I don't want to talk about losses because that's not the thing, but that is a step towards your goal. That is a moment where, hey, you know what? You're capable of feeling relaxed. You're capable of feeling good. And every day you go towards that. Does that make sense? I know I'm kind of.
It does. It does. It does. And I think it kind of, at least for me, paints a whole picture of, starting out excited, some worries and heavier, darker thoughts come in. And again, I feel like, at least for me, default setting would be, oh, I don't want to deal with this, push it away. Instead, do something our movement teachers at the academy used to say when we would be doing like deep stretches and everything, and it would be painful. They would always say, breathe into the pain. It will become easier. At the time, I was like, what are you talking about? It hurts.
You're like, oh,
yeah,
just sounds
it
painful.
hurts. Yeah, it hurts. What are you talking about? But then,
right.
I mean, after doing like not necessarily yoga, but like different stretches and things, when you try to, instead of going against that feeling of uncomfortability that comes up, or like trying to push it away, like breathing into it, you realize what is going on. You even feel like your muscles release, and then you see that the tension that was there, you were holding it.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like this is again an opportunity to, instead of pushing these things away and saying like, oh no, everything's going to work out, it will.
Mm-hmm.
However, there's a reason why these things show up. Like my therapist says, every emotion has a reason and legitimacy to be there.
Mm-hmm.
You don't necessarily have to follow all of them, but understand that they're there.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe think about why they're there. Maybe you'll find it, and then you'll realize that this is something that has shifted for you or is shifting. And that's where that heaviness and worries lie, and then move past it.
Right.
Yeah. And get that win, get that W,
Right.
create it for yourself, even if it's a small one. All these incremental steps that we take um, do work. I remember one of the acting books that I read was they used this term inchworm when they
Mm-hmm.
were talking about your career and like taking all of these steps. They're like, everybody wants to like leaps and go by leaps and bounds like a kangaroo, but
Mm-hmm.
think about it as an inchworm, just taking it one tiny little step at the time. And over time, they will combine and compile into a beautiful marathon of
Right.
wins. So yeah, so I guess that's a good way to that's a
Yes.
positive note to end things to.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this has been our talk, our conversation for the night. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you very soon.
Yes. And I would love to hear or see some comments and what other people would, what their thoughts are, what their opinions are, if there's anything else that we have brushed upon that I thought we talked about, but you want more detail on. I would love um, to read about those, actually.
Yes,
Yeah.
let us know, and then we'll continue the conversation. We'll chat about that. So
Yes.
yeah, I guess thank you for this conversation. Until the next time.